What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 411 of Opinions May Vary. I am your host, JR. My co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm great.
Great. Just living it up, living the dream. We are going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to jump right into it. I don't want to waste too much time. We have two guests today. We're doing a twofer, kind of in celebration, whatever you want to say, of there's a show starting literally today. Running for an entire week. We're not really covering it in any official capacity. It's just we're big fans of the show and some people who are going to be at the show. So we talk to them and it's going to be fun. But there's pandemic. There's still coronavirus or COVID-19 going around. Unfortunately, a couple PAX shows had to get canceled for this year, I believe. PAX West was supposed to happen last week, and then PAX Oz, PAX Australia was next in line. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Or if it was already supposed to happen next in line. But either way, neither of them got to happen this year because of COVID, safety reasons and all that. And so Penny Arcade and the PAX team, they kind of shifted gears and instead they're doing PAX Online. It's an entire week of online content, starting today, Saturday the 12th, and running through, I believe, Sunday the 20th when it ends with the Omegathon. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that they have lined up. We have two guests who are going to be at PAX. One of them is a game designer, a game developer. The other is directly associated with PAX, with the Omegathon and with Child's Play. It's going to be a lot of fun. We really excited for this episode, and we hope you enjoy. All right, now joining us first is game creator Chris McQuinn. Chris is a developer for WashBear Studio, and their game Parkasaurus is one of the 20 handpicked titles that's going to be featured next week during the PAX Online Indie Showcase. Chris, thank you so much for coming on.
No problem. Thanks for inviting me.
We're not doing any sort of official media capacity for PAX this, at least for this event. But we still, being big fans of PAX ourselves, we felt the need to look into it and see who's going to be there. The Indie Showcase is always something that we try to focus on because that's where you find a lot of like the gems and the stuff that maybe you hadn't heard of before, but now there's a spotlight on it or something of that nature. And looking into Parkasaurus was one of those things right away. Alex put my eyes on it first. He's like, hey, I saw this game. And then immediately it was like, okay, we need to talk about this. Before we get too deep into it, Chris, can you give us like the quick, 30-second thing on what exactly Parkasaurus is?
Yeah, so the 30-second pitch would be Parkasaurus is a dinosaur tycoon management game with a few new unique takes on the genre. Yeah, that's the pitch. Do you accept the pitch?
I humbly accept the pitch, and will attempt to follow up with questions about pitch. Now, I mentioned in pre-show, and you'll probably get this from every single person who says that they like your game. I was raised specifically on, not specifically, but Roller Coaster Tycoon was kind of my jam. I've downloaded it countless times throughout. Like, you just go through those spurts of like, oh, man, I really want to play that game again. And I do the exact same things that I did when I was 10. And for some reason, I feel like it's going to work differently, but it just works the exact same way. So seeing a tycoon game like this, a newer game, especially it's something that's a little bit different. It's not the typical, like, you're building a theme park for people to ride roller coasters. Like, this one is specifically, you're building dinosaur themes and events and attractions. And it also, one thing that I wanted to note was there's an article about your game on Polygon that calls it deceptively cute and surprisingly deep. And in the research looking into this game, that was evidently clear. There's actually videos of it on your website where it talks about like yes, you build the attractions for the dinosaurs and you ultimately want to please the guests with appealing attractions and all that stuff. But it's also there's you have to build like ecosystem.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of want to dive right into that, into making the game unique and standing out from other tycoon games that we've seen in the past. stuff like the ecosystems. Can you elaborate on what that was, where your mind was, like putting that in the game?
Yeah. So okay, I mean, the original genesis of the game, I would say that was one of the core pillars we had was let's kind of turn it around where classic, the majority of classic tycoon games was you are there to please the guests, right? It's like, so the guests are your priority. So we're like, okay, let's just turn this around. And if we actually had a dinosaur park, the dinosaurs should be first, right? It's like they should be paramount. If the dinosaurs are happy and taken care of, then yeah, okay, the guests will be happy, but that's really an auxiliary benefit of it, right? So we're like, okay, well, what do you have to do if you actually have to have a proper park for dinosaurs? You have to have exhibits that are balanced and like terrain and ecosystems and plants that would match the species, just as if you'd ran an actual zoo, right? So if you're an actual zoo and an animal traditionally is from, some sort of desert arid climate, then you'd have to make an exhibit like that. So we're like, okay, so let's try to make the exhibits the focus of the game. And that's kind of where we started. And yeah, so I mean, you mentioned it. So in the game, at the end, in the game, you can create a whole diverse number of biomes, and you can't just place a biome down though. So often you have to place a base tile like grass, and then you have to add water or terraform the land, and there's this graph that pops up, and you can kind of change the biome depending on the amount of water and the terrain, like the ruggedness, we call it. It was a really tough term to find. Ruggedness, and that sort of pushes the biome into a different place. And yeah, and that's just one aspect. Like the exhibits also have things like privacy. So you can see a privacy heat map, and so you want to limit the number of spots guests can look at your dino, because obviously dinosaurs don't like being looked at, right? I mean, so yeah, that was one of the ways we were hoping to be a bit different, at least with the original genesis of the game. And I think we went through a lot of different ideas for how we were going to do that, and we had a lot of different prototypes. Some of them got really in the weeds and really detailed, so much so that we're like, this is a bit too heady, maybe not fun. So we pulled back a bit in certain aspects, but I think at the end of the day, that was one of what we were trying to achieve, at least to be a bit different. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of fun to do too, just tinkering with your exhibit.
Between watching the review videos and your example videos, and as JR was just talking about, roller coaster games, and one of the key differences I'm noticing is like, you don't really care about your coaster or your building or your city as you would a pet. And you should consider each of these dinosaurs as your pets. And in a lot of the other interviews of yours that I've scanned, like I believe you had a dog, you said at one point.
Yeah.
And the other member of WashBear.
She's in my lap right now. Sorry to interrupt. She's in my lap literally as we speak. Okay.
And your partner has a lot of pets, you had said. And
yeah.
And one of the fun keys is like how if you're going to go ahead and not make it be a super serious game and have some fun, like do things like put glasses or hats on the dinosaurs. And one of the things you said, like, well, don't you want to dress up your pets in silly outfits too? Like
100%. Yeah. Like, and that was one of the things too. Like you kind of hit one of the themes for our game is we want you to care. I'm like, at least you don't have to care. Like you can totally take the game as a business approach, but we also wanted to give the opportunity that if you wanted to care about your dinos, which we do, then you should be able to. And man, like you said, we love dressing our dog up. We are those people, and we love animals, right? I mean, me and my actual partner, and then Myron, who's my business partner for the game, his family is obsessed with animals. So like that was it sounds cheesy, but that was the real driving force of the game. Like we love animals. So we want you to love your dinos. We want to provide you ways to love your dino in both respect of creating them a really nice home, providing them, like really good food, but also just dressing them up and, I don't know, having different colored dinos. And it's kind of fun. Like, it didn't impact the game much, like the gameplay, certain aspects of it, like the decorating part of your dinos. But yeah, it's just fun. I don't know. Like if you have a dog and you dress them up, you totally get what I'm saying.
When you tell them they're a handsome boy.
Oh yeah, for sure. Who'd a good girl? She just looked up and she's like, "It's me, obviously, dum-dum."
It's like they're well aware, but like they also need to know.
Oh yeah, for sure, right? He's like, look, it's man slave. He's saying something to me. The male slave is talking.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Pets it's amazing how they can just take over your life. Whether it's real pets or even fake pets or fake villages or parks or
Totally.
It's insane. I mean, I've put 300 hours or so into Animal Crossing since March. Thanks pandemic. So with Parkas, one thing that is intriguing to me is obviously you have to, being a dev in this game, creating the game, coding the game, and all that stuff that I have no idea about. It's like you need to know two different things when it comes to making this game, because like, yes, there's the creating the game itself, but then also putting those factors in play that we were discussing a moment ago, like ecosystems and things like that. Like you also have to like be like an armchair biologist.
Yeah.
Like, was that something that you were already interested in prior to making this game, or is that a result of making it?
So I think, me and my partner, like me and Myron, we both have science backgrounds, and we find the world of science cool. And I think so, we were definitely armchair biologists we were scientists. Like I am at least formally trained as a background. So I think we've always had that interest in that. So it's really cool to give yourself an excuse to actually look stuff up. I mean, it's pretty rare when you're making a game to be like, oh, I'm going to check Wikipedia because there's some piece of information I need for my game. Like, it doesn't really often happen, at least for me. So it was kind of fun to do that. And then you have to take liberties. Obviously, we definitely take liberties for certain things, but we try to base it as much as we can on actual, ecosystems. Like, we try to look up ecosystems and try to match up what would make the most sense. And of course, you can't be exact, right? You have to take liberty. Otherwise, you'll never finish a game. Or for gameplay reasons, you have to, right? For design reasons. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, I think it's fun. Like, for us, if you can make something, we like science, we like nature, we love going to zoos. Like Myron loves going to the zoo with his family. And if you can make a game that's based, on your passion or interest, I think it just makes the painful parts easier.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If I'm going to write a science story, I should basically know some elements of science, or at least how to get that knowledge to make this story seem a little bit plausible without just...
Yeah, and like, totally. And players get it too, right? I mean, look, you're not going to get a degree in biology playing the game, but I don't know, like, players are pretty smart. They can kind of smell out when things are a bit accurate and when they're not accurate, right? And you kind of want to give them something that's plausibly accurate.
But still have fun.
Yeah, and still have fun, right? Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Which is one of the things. It's been a recurring. I kind of want to call it a demand that you've had over, like, well, the dinosaurs are animated this way because if they're too realistic, is it still fun? We don't want to make them scary, and you're choosing the color palette because if it was just an all concrete park, that would be boring. So hence, like,
yeah,
no one can prove that these dinosaurs weren't purple.
Right. Well, and it gave us some liberty, like also creative liberties too, to a certain degree. Like what we wanted, like kind of going back to one of the original pillars of the exhibits being the focus of the game, we wanted your screenshots to look awesome, mm-hmm. right? Like we wanted them to be cool and colorful and just look cool. So there might be some other dino games that we won't speak of that traditionally take the very realistic approach of dark dinos, like everything's dark and dreary and green and and that's fine. Like, I get it. Like, we get a lot of requests. Yeah, the game's good, but can we have the dinos look realistic? I'm like, well, no, because that's not our vision, right? Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, and that's just it. And plus, if your dinos were colored different colors, you can kind of get away with, them being the exact shape of what the dino used to be or something like that. Mm-hmm. Because when you're a two-person team, you kind of have to cut corners. So, I mean, we didn't cut any corners.
I mean, if something, when you're playing a game about making a theme park about dinosaurs, so people can come and you're upset with the realism, I mean, maybe take a step. It's a game about a dinosaur theme park. Like, at the end of the day, come on, like, how realistic do you need it?
I don't know, man. You play Jurassic World Evolution. That's pretty realistic. I'll tip my hat to them.
Right. I mean, so far it seems, looking at the game on Steam right now, All reviews are it's noted as overwhelmingly positive, which has to feel like a good thing, especially because the game was early access in 2018, I believe, and then released last month, like officially. So to see does that kind of all the work that you put into this, all the hours and the hours that you're going to put into this, seeing, it looks like it's at 1,300 reviews, overwhelmingly positive on Steam. Does that make it all worth it?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, it is scary, right? Putting a game out on Steam is really scary. You just constantly see games financially fail, right? Like, not just financially fail, just fail the actual making of the game, and then financially fail. And so, yeah, it's scary. It's like a scary time to be on Steam. So just having some success feels good, and it makes it worth it. We could, and like, man, I can't say this enough. The early access for us was great. The community was so good. They helped us fix so many problems, and they provided so many good ideas. Yeah, it feels good. And it feels good, like, to take their vision too at a certain point. Like, we had a vision, and then the community's vision sort of feeds into that. And so when we released the game last month officially, it wasn't just our vision anymore. It was also our community. So it also feels really good to do it for them in a way. Like, I know, just listening to myself, I sound a bit too much, but it's true. Like, that's how we feel.
Do you have maybe an example of something that the community had pitched that you integrated?
Oh man, a bunch. One that comes to mind was the pause. Like, it sounds stupid, but the pause system, like being able to pause the game.
Okay.
We had, because me and Myron had talked about it over and over. We're like, no, we're not pausing the game. It goes forever. So, I guess, I don't know why we were going to die on that hill. I think there was we had a day-night cycle, which we had inherited from Don't Starve, actually, which we liked. And we're like, day-night cycle, you don't see that a lot. That's awesome. Let's do it. And we're like, no, you can't pause. Like, absolutely not. No way. And then, man, we fought the community on this for months and months and months and months. And finally we did it, and the game was way better for it. For like a whole bunch of reasons, like litany of reasons, gameplay and otherwise. We're like, oh man, they were right. They're pretty smart of them. Like, that's just one example. There's just a lot of good stuff that they came up with. I could go forever. Like, and there's another, like, for one of my personal favorites is your employees. You use them to go to the portal room to go back in time, which is a different dimension. I don't want to ruin the lore. To dig up skulls and footprints to get more dinos. Okay, so that's what you do.
Right.
And every employee has a shape, and that unearths some of the ground. And one of the communities were like, well, why don't you rotate the shape with the right mouse button? And it sounds so simple. We'd never thought about it. And it made the portal, like, way more fun. Like, it got kind of monotonous after a while. But now that you can, like, rotate the pieces, and, like, it's way more of like a Tetris thing. I was like, oh, this is so smart. And it was so easy to do. Those are my favorite. Like, easy to implement and makes it way better.
One of the reviews that I had watched, like, it wasn't a big complaint. They were like, a minor thing was if you were solely wanted the construction management system, and now there's this side mini game, and it was, like I said, it wasn't a large complaint, but they're like, it's a little monotonous. But I could see how, like, manipulating the shape of how the digging portion, could either make that go a lot faster or seem a lot more useful because you can uncover more tiles easier. That does sound like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? If you want, you can also just automatic dig, right? You can just pay some money, and you can select the automatic dig option, and they'll dig for you automatically. And I think that was a community suggestion too, actually. We're like, okay.
I mean, especially nowadays, at least a lot of the big studios who just don't seem to really have their finger on the pulse of what, like, the people want, or I don't want to get too crazy with it, but the fact that you're willing to listen to your fan base, I think is huge. I respect that. It would just be really easy to be like, no, this is my game. I'm going to make it how I want to make it. And if you want to play it, fine. But, like, you listen, and that's great. I think it speaks volumes. I think it's a trait that a lot of studios could really work towards. It's a concept that I'm not, like, up to date on. Because if I'm playing a game and something in the game is going poorly for me, I just assume I'm a bad player and that I'm not doing it right. And the concept of, like,
because I don't know, I'm old, I guess, and like when the game comes out, it's out and we're done here. Versus being able to talk to the developer and be like, well, what if we change this? You know, maybe I have this one idea and it might be better. That honestly is a difficult idea for me to get a hold of, but that's why I'm not in the games industry.
Well, I mean, I'm like you too, right? I don't want to get feedback on other people's games really. Like when I just want to get the game and I want that to be the final product. But you know, a lot of people aren't that way, which is awesome. Otherwise, our early access would have sucked. Yeah, but I see it goes both ways, right? And I think, and that's the beauty of it. Some people are really into it, and some people aren't. And there's a forum for both those type of people.
Let's transition to PAX. PAX Online it's technically starts when this is released, it technically starts today. But it goes for an entire week. It's kind of like PAX West and PAX Australia kind of mashed into one, I guess, because I think both events got canceled. But they're doing a week long of events, all streamed, Twitch, everywhere. Where I'm sure we'll discuss that. But your game, Parkasaurus, is part of the PAX Online Indie Showcase. So, according to the PAX website, they took a look at over 350 indie games available on Steam, and they picked 20 titles that were especially original, compelling, and just plain fun. Parkasaurus, of course, being one of them. What did that mean to you and the team being selected as part of the Indie Showcase?
Huge, yeah. I mean, as you're probably aware, it's really tough to ever get noticed. The indie scene is very competitive. There's a lot of games out there. And so I think it's tough just to get noticed, as in, like, we think our game's pretty decent. It's just tough for people to see it. So for them choosing us, it just feels good. You know, it's gratifying. It's sort of, I don't know. Again, I think you had said it earlier. It makes things feel kind of worth it. And I love PAX. So like you guys, I was going to PAX before so I started exhibiting at PAX with another company a long time ago. But even before that, I was going just as, like, I would travel with my friends there for it, just when it started. I don't know when the first one I went to, 2007.
Damn.
And yeah, like, we love it. So the fact that it's a PAX showcase is awesome. And it's also kind of sweet because we were hoping to be at the Indie Mega booth. Well, I guess, yeah, politics. But Indie Mega booth, I don't know if it would have been at PAX this year, but we were hoping to be at PAX this year in person. But for obvious reasons, that's not happening.
Right.
So yeah, it felt great. And like extra special because it is PAX.
Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say, were you already working out a booth for something, if people could have shown up in person to your booth, like what would you have had set up? Would you have had made like a tiny park or, a dinosaur thing in there?
We were going to hope to make it like an exhibit, like a little fence, like the dino fence and stuff. I had some ideas going on. Like, man, I've made a lot of booths in my time actually at PAX, like small ones, little indie booths. And yeah, I wanted to make an exhibit that you'd go into, and and maybe we were going to have PAX showing on a different device. Like, we had some ideas, but that obviously all got shelved.
Is it being, like you said, you're a fan of PAX, and then you got to start exhibiting at PAX. We've only ever attended as fans / media. We've never exhibited. We've tabled a couple times at like conventions, like Comic-Cons and stuff like that, to try and get word out for the podcast and stuff like that. Yeah. I guess my question is it as exhausting as it seems, being a exhibitor at PAX? Because goddamn, it seems like, and we're only there for 2 days, it seems exhausting because just same pitch over and over again, talking to people, explaining the game. Like, it seems like it could really take a toll on you.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. No lie. I think it also depends how many people you have with you at the booth who can like relieve. Like, man, your heart has to go to the people, especially usually the indie booths where it's and like PAX used to be 3 days, and I think they made it 4 days, 5 days. I don't even know anymore. It's like when it's a solo dev and they're there for 4 or 5 days doing it themselves. Like, that is insane, truly insane. Yeah, it's exhausting. I mean, it's fun. Don't get me wrong. Just meeting people and talking to them is a lot of fun. It's not the people that's tiring. It's like your body starts to fail you. It's like, right? It's like standing for that long, like 4 hours in, your body's like, I'm done. You're like, no, but we have 4 more days.
Oh man.
It's rough, but it's good.
Yeah, I mean it's hard to, I mean, getting like, depending on your space and what you're presenting, potentially you're looking at thousands of people coming through your booth and looking at your game. It seems like it's like a necessary evil, like to be exhausted, but also, word's getting out. People are looking at your stuff. You never know, the right person might be looking at your stuff. It's just one of those things, like, and it seems, I don't want to say it's cutthroat, but like it can be, especially in the indie scene. Me having zero experience as a developer, but I have some experience as an actual, as a consumer. Like the slightest thing can turn someone off to a game. Like, I'm thinking about playing, the line's too long, don't want to touch it. I don't, whatever.
And there's a lot of games out there, right? People have a lot of choice, so it's a great time to be a game player.
Right.
It's competitive to be a developer for sure.
Alex, you got something?
It's on my tongue, and I'm like, I don't know if it's worth it.
If it's worth it. Like, will I offend them?
Like sometimes I have trouble coming up with new questions, and I don't just want to repeat like what I've already seen. But I guess it just goes back to the concept of listening to other players, because there was an interview, I think just recently, maybe last month, you had mentioned, where one of the difficult bugs you had was players who would save and come back, and like the first egg they needed wouldn't drop. But that's something that you would never done when you were playtesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, early access is great for that specifically. I mean, when you're 2 people, one of the biggest challenges is just playing the game and finding bugs. Like usually that's, there's a department for that, or you at least have one person who's dedicated to just trying to find bugs, right? Early access is fantastic because the people who are getting it in early access, they at least are coming towards the game with this idea of, okay, we know there's going to be bugs. So when they find them, they're A, not upset. B, they're usually pretty responsible in submitting a bug to us, because we have an in-game bug submitter, right? You can just submit the bug right in game, sends you the save file, sends us the picture and a debug log. And yeah, it's awesome because we could never find these things ourselves. So when we do a full launch, like we did last month, it's pretty stable, right? And so the people who are, and my expectation when I buy a game at full launch, which is fair, is people expect it to be more polished and stable. And there's no way we would have gotten there without the community, which is super understanding and just helping us find bugs. It's God, bugs are the worst. Because like you said, a lot of the times, God, when you're playing this game, you start playing it the same way all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so like the game's really polished in one avenue of play, but there's people who play the game totally different than us. Like they play the game in a way which I wouldn't find fun, but they love. And by doing so, they find all these crazy ass bugs. We're like, what? Like, okay, makes sense. Yeah. So anyways, I can't speak enough of the community and early access and how well it's worked for us, particularly.
We've had that even amongst our friend group, where I think it was Joe was with us when a few of us first started playing BioShock Infinite. And he's just like watching me play like explore, and then someone else will pick up the controller and just go fight. And he's like, you guys have absolutely different play styles and I love them both.
Right. Yeah, that's just it. It's amazing.
Do you pay attention to, I don't know if people are streaming gameplay yet, or if players have like uploaded, just YouTube videos of them playing. I can imagine a developer watching a speed run and being like, how did you break this? Have you seen any players like do wacky stuff that you just hadn't predicted, or just things that are surprising to you that they've done with your game?
So yeah, like our game's not really a speedrun game. I do watch, there's quite a bit of YouTube videos of the game up, and so we do watch them. I have a tough time watching them just because like I'm weird like that. Like I hate hearing people talk about your game. It's a terrible habit. You should break it if you develop games, but I still have it. But it's useful because you also get a lot of good feedback that way. Because people, especially streamers, they're usually pretty good critics of games. So their feedback is some of the best feedback we get. We're like, oh, that's a really good point. But to answer your question, yeah, people have done some pretty interesting things, specifically with combining different dinos, which we hadn't thought of. I think what stands out most to me is just the types of parks people are creating. Like they're super awesome. Like just very complex, very clever use of the terrain and like elevated walkways and how the exhibits, like how the pathways that people take go through the exhibits without disturbing the exhibit, like making the exhibit look really natural, and the pathways sort of complement the exhibit, like as opposed to the exhibit being made around the pathways, which is how we always did stuff. Yeah, it's great. And like I had mentioned, when you submit a bug, you also send in their save file. So people will send a bug in for some random thing, and we open up their park, and it's just massive park. Like, what is going on? This is nuts. And then it feels super good because you're like, wow, someone played my game for a while. And I don't know. It feels cool. I mean, you sort of have this weird conversation with the player. You've never talked to them, but you can see the park they made and how they made it. And you're like, yeah, I get it. I don't know. It's weird. Anyways, yeah, we're just always surprised by the way people lay out their parks in ways we never would have, right?
It's really weird how, sorry, Alex, I just want to comment on like you get like tunnel vision. Like, I've been playing Animal Crossing. I mentioned it earlier. Everyone's been playing Animal Crossing. It's insane. But like, my wife and I have been sharing an island, and we built our island, and in our eyes, our island is perfect. It is beautiful. It can't get any better.
Yeah.
And then my sister-in-law is also playing the game, and let's go take a trip to her island and sell some cherries, whatever. But like the second we quote unquote land on her island, I'm just gonna start over. I've been doing everything wrong. I didn't even know this was possible, because like you get that tunnel vision of like, no, this is perfect. But then like other people see it their way and they play the game their way. It's just, so I imagine from a dev point of view, getting those, like you said, the save files and the screenshots and seeing streamers play it, that must be just a wealth of knowledge.
Totally. Yeah, we get a lot from it. And yeah, I mean, also, if we read into it correctly, it sort of gives us a finger on the pulse, as I think we mentioned, of how players are playing the game. And so that kind of helps you decide maybe what feature or quality of life item you prioritize in the list of things we're going to work on, right? Because again, there's only two of us, so we have to be super choosy about what we work on. We can't do everything, and we can't work on the game forever, because that's a bad idea. So diminishing returns really at some point. But yeah, and so I think seeing how people play the game through their parks, it kind of gives us like sort of shed some light on what we should be working on, which is kind of nice.
Right.
Yeah.
Alex, how are we doing on time?
We're at about 33 minutes.
Okay, got it.
If you've got time for like one more question, I've got.
Yeah, I'm game.
So one of the aspects is that if you don't keep your dinos happy, or you don't build a strong enough structure, they could escape. And in one of I think it's in the demo video that you have, and I think I saw somewhere else, like the dino will just smash his fence and then immediately grab a guest in its mouth. And I saw another one where like one was carrying a guest like down the walkway and knocking over other stuff, and it just starts destroying like the hot dog stand, and everything just crashes apart. And it's was there any kind, like, was there a tough decision? Be like, well, do we make this violent, or do we keep it like as cartoony as it's been? Because if a dino gets loose, will it just like grab a person? Or have players like purposely made structures that all their dinos just eat all the guests?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, people have done everything. I think they've made like dinos. They've tried to make dinos fight each other, which is actually a bit difficult. But they'll have dino fights to see which one wins. But usually it's trying to get as many people. Like the dinos also have takedowns. They record their takedowns on the dino itself, so you can always figure out how many people a dino's eaten. I mean, they don't officially eat them. The people disappear after the fact. But yeah, it was a balance between, like, we obviously, look, you can't have a dino game without dino destruction, right? Like, that's just, I feel that's just mandatory. So for us, there was a balance there. I mean, we find it's actually really funny because the people ragdoll, and so they fly all over the place, and dinos can throw them across the park. And we kind of wanted that fun, goofy feeling. And for us, the ramifications are pretty small. If a dino gets out, like, it matters. You probably will lose money for the day, but you can fix things up, and Yeah, so I think there was a balance there between, we want dino destruction because it's funny, but we don't want it to happen too often because it can get super annoying if you just want to build your park and there's a dino breaking out all the time. So, if you do it properly, then you won't have many. And of course, there will still be a breakout inevitable here and there probably. But it was a balancing act that we had to do and choose. And so, it was between like cartoony-ish, but also still having a gameplay element, which is part of it too. You want to upgrade your fences with stronger tier dinos. Otherwise, they're going to break out all the time. So, kind of a balance between all those things.
If someone wanted to obviously we mentioned it's on Steam, so you can go on to Steam and you can get Parkasaurus. It is $24.99. It was just released last month, so still a nice fresh new game. Go check it out. If someone wanted to learn more, I don't know if you were interested in having people follow you on the social medias or your company with, excuse me, with WashBear. Where could people go if they wanted to get more information, if they wanted to find you? I don't know if you're going to be doing any more online events kind of like PAX or anything like that. Is there anything in the future coming up for Parkasaurus and WashBear Studio?
So if people want to follow us, we're we're quasi-active on the social media, so we put our updates there. So you can follow us on the Twitter, which is just WashBear Studio. So that's the two of us, the company. And our Discord exists if you want to drop by and hang out. So that's just discord.gg/washbear. And we don't have any other events coming up that are Indie Showcase. But check us out in Steam. Parkasaurus, pretty simple to find us. Pick us up or just wishlist us or just follow the studio. We do have some things coming up. We're going to be working on a new project. Not for a while, though. We're kind of figuring out some new features for Parkasaurus. So that's kind of what we have kind of coming up, I'd say. Follow us on Twitter or join our Discord. Those are the best ways.
Excellent. Again, Chris, congratulations getting into the Indie Showcase. Hopefully everyone going to PAX, quote unquote, to PAX Online takes a look and are able to see, this rad game among all the other rad indie games. Again, if you haven't checked out the Indie Showcase yet, go check it out. It can feature some of the greatest gems that you may not have heard about, including something like Parkasaurus. So congratulations, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Our next guest is Travis Erickson, who is the Executive Director of Child's Play Charity and the Chief Omegatech at PAX. In addition to raising money for kids in need at PAX Online, Travis is also in charge of the Omegathon, a daily gaming competition with the winner being crowned champion in a grand finale at the end of the show. I've talked about it at extreme length in the past, and now it's time to hear about it from the chief himself. Travis, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me.
One of those things that I always slept on we've been going to PAX since 2014, I think. It took us a while to start going there, despite the fact that we live an hour and a half from Boston. But one thing that I slept on the first couple years of going was the Omegathon. I'd always heard about it. I'd watched some rounds of it, like on Twitch and all that stuff, or on YouTube later on. But it's something that I always slept on when I was at the show until PAX Unplugged the first year. My wife came to PAX with me. It was the first ever convention that she had ever been to. And I was like, we're going to try new stuff because it's a new show and it's going to be fun. And went to the Omegathon for the first time. And I got to witness the legend that was Neil in person. It was amazing. Didn't get to go to every round, and eventually my wife and I watched the final round from home to see. We found that Neil was in the finals. It was incredible. But it's one of those things that I totally slept on, and I regret it immensely. And ever since that first year at PAX Unplugged, every PAX that we've gone to, I've tried to go to at least one round of it. Because it's fun. It's a good time. The crowd is usually hype as hell. Now, for people who aren't aware, Travis, can you give us like a quick, what the hell am I talking about? What is the Omegathon?
Yeah, so the Omegathon goes back all the way to the very first PAX here in Seattle in 2004. At the time, just before the show, some fans of Penny Arcade donated a collection of every single NES game, accessory, couple consoles, just you name it, everything that came out for the Nintendo, the original Nintendo Entertainment System. And so Mike and Jerry and the Penny Arcade crew put together a game called the Omegathon, and that was the final prize for it. And so they selected 20 people and ran an elimination tournament, eliminated 4 people around until you got to the final 2 who battled it out. And the winner in that very first final round was Pong, the secret surprise final round. And winner got to take all that Nintendo stuff home. From there, it's grown to every single show. So, spread to PAX East, PAX West, South Oz, and then Unplugged, and now PAX Online, where it's always a similar format. PAX East is slightly different. The very first PAX East was around March. So we built a Sweet 16 bracket, and we run that as teams of 2. So 16 teams of 2, and they play competitively still, and you just work your way through the bracket there. At the other shows, we're doing the 20 people, and we eliminate 4 until we get down to the final 2. And for PAX Online, we had to adapt a bit. 20 people would definitely not work well in a live format inside of an hour. So for PAX Online, we have selected 6 Omeganauts, and we are playing in a Grand Prix style. So up until the very final round, everybody has a shot to get in. They're earning points based on where they finish in the games. So it's a real fun, exciting part of PAX that gets, once you get into the Omegathon, it's real hard to not to catch at least one round. Like you said, you want to figure out and see how people are going. And when you get an amazing contestant like Neil that pops in that just is this sleeper contestant all the way through, it just makes it that much more fun to watch the things happen all the way through the show.
How long have you been a part of the Omegathon since the beginning, or is that something that you've come into
since the very beginning?
No.
So I was at the time in 2004 was a teacher. I was helping out at the show and friends with Mike and Jerry. And when they went to run the very first round, they were, internet comic guys who had no crowd management or anything like that. And as a teacher, saw my friends kind of struggling and stepped in and went, "Hey, let me manage all the people. You guys back over here. You guys over there. You two run the games. That's fine. I'll manage the crowds." And talked to them after the show and said, "If you're going to ever do that again, let me just intentionally do that." Because I was enforcing that first year and abandoned all my enforcer duties during those rounds to help make it successful for them. And since then, been running the Omegathon. As the show has grown and Mike and Jerry have had more and more responsibilities at the show, it has become a thing that now I get to do all the hosting and game testing and all that stuff. So it is a real fun part of PAX for me, and I really enjoy running it.
It's one of those things that takes games that you might not expect to be exciting or kind of hype generating. I don't know the term I'm looking for, but an example, I talked about it years ago. It was at PAX East. I can't remember what year. It was 2 or 3 years ago, but it was early on, so still a bunch of contestants, and the game was mowing and throwing, I think.
Yep.
It's a game about mowing lawns, which when you pitch that to someone oh yeah, you mow a lawn and you have to mow a lawn faster than someone else. Oh, cool.
Thanks, Dad.
But I can't begin to, I've tried to describe, that room was so loud, it rivaled live shows that I've been to. It was so insanely hype. Watching, I can't remember. I think it was 2 teams at a time or 4 teams at a time. I can't quite remember. But
two teams. So you were 2v2.
Right. So 4
throwing
people.
It around. Yeah.
And it was bonkers. It was nuts. It was so fun. Just because it was a really tense game, it ended up being there's a lot of strategy involved, and pretty much every time I've gone, I went to PAX South. I was visiting some family at the exact same time that PAX was happening. So as a surprise for them, I was like, "Oh, hey, by the way, drive me to San Antonio." We saw one of the rounds where it was a ninja. I don't know the name of the game, but it was they were like ninjas and they were sneaking around and killing each other. And during the round, it would be dead silent. The room would just be silent. And then someone would sneak up behind someone, kill the other guy or almost kill the guy, and the crowd would go nuts. It has that way of just amplifying games that might not necessarily be crazy hype, or you'd expect a crowd to really get into. But it's just, has that been your experience the entire time doing the Omegathon, or is that as it's?
That's as it's grown. There's definitely a list of games that we keep that are my running lists of like, this game was amazing, we definitely need to bring it back. This game was fine if I ever need to fill a hole, and this game was outstanding and must show up again, so that we get to really show those off. And it's really fun for me to be able to connect. We do, the Omegathon is generally not full of AAA titled games. A lot of those aren't built for the, kind of 4-player competitive game anyways. So it's a chance to connect and show off some cool dev games, or to, take a game that you might normally understand how the rules work and figure out how we can kind of tweak the rules to make it a little bit different, and a fun way to keep the Omeganauts guessing on what do we care about. I really don't want you to be the best gamer. I always tell them the Omegathon is about not losing. It's not about winning. You're just always working to not be eliminated. Even when you get to the final round, it's don't be eliminated, and then you win, but just try not to be last. You're never worried about first. So, it's really fun to be able to, kind of look around at games that have come out and find board games and little indie games and things like that people haven't had an opportunity to maybe see, and get them in front of people. So it's a fun time picking the lineup for each show.
Is it a lot of work, like, for you personally to go search them out or get recommendations, or have you gotten more like developers trying to pitch them to you?
We still don't get a ton that are pitched. Every now and then we have them reach out, ones that we've worked with before that are like, hey, we've got a new one, what do you think? And those are always fun because they know about the Omegathon, and they're willing to, maybe put a little bit more in and give us, some cool graphics in the background or a special build or things like that. Mm-hmm. But no, it's a part of the fun that I get to do is just kind of keep an eye on what games are. I get to, walk a PAX floor and really sit down and check out the games, and then ask weird questions to developers about, like, okay, can your game do this? Can it work like this? Could I use that? And get some weird looks until I explain why I'm asking, strange rule questions inside their demo game. And then, I get a ton of suggestions back from former Omeganauts who find games and go, oh my God, this game would be so great. And my assistants inside the Omegathon, Ben and Tara, who are both former Omeganauts, who just kept always showing up, and I kept needing bodies. And so finally I was like, hey, just become an enforcer and officially do this. You're coming to the show all the time anyways. You're buying tickets, be an enforcer and get your tickets, and then help me out. Also send a lot of games my way. So it's a lot of fun to kind of just every now and then stop and get this list of collection of, let's check these out. Let's see what looks good. All right, here's the 6 or 8 that I need, whatever it is for the show.
So the guys have explained to me the concept of enforcers in the past, because in our friend group that goes, I'm the least experienced with PAX, and over again, it's stressed like how much fun the enforcers have and how cool that role is. And I've been to a lot of comic book shows, and I've never witnessed like comic book con volunteers really getting recognition or getting elevation in the company. They just kind of like volunteer. Here's your one free comic. Goodbye. Whereas like now hearing you say it yourself, like, no, like enforcers are cool. Like they help us do a lot of stuff. It's really cool hearing that.
None of these PAX shows could happen without the enforcer team. They are super passionate about it. If you become an enforcer and you get into one of those groups, and you are then part of line management. You are not just, I'm here to keep people in line and make sure they walk straight and don't stop. It's like, I'm here. We're going to make sure you're having a good time in line. We've got entertainment that comes along. We're helping you out if you get, questions about what this show is and things like that. They are really a backbone of what I think makes PAX so much different from any other, video game or comic convention that comes around. They are there having as great a time as the people at the show, and are really passionate to be able to share that with people who are there for the very first time and people who have been there at every single PAX and see them in line and go, "Hey, how's it going? It's been a year since we've seen you."
I wanted to quickly circle back. You were talking about finding the games, game selection, things like that. I was curious because this for PAX Online, and I could be wrong here. It seems like there's more rounds than normal with this year's Omegathon. Looks like there's a total of 8 rounds, although the first round is Meet the Omegathon. But it looks like there's more games than normal. Was it difficult finding games that would work in an online setting, and especially finding more games than you normally would have to find?
No, this was interesting because this let me tap into some games that we wouldn't necessarily be able to do otherwise. The smaller number of people means that we get a little bit more playtime. So instead of trying to fit 20 people in an hour, which reduces the amount of playtime everybody gets, I've got 6 people in an hour, and we get to try things over and over a little bit. So yeah, it's fun because it's a much smaller group. It's only 6 people, and we've gotten a chance to get together ahead of time and do some tech tests so that we could, make sure everybody can actually share their screen and that our connections are good and, all that kind of stuff, because normally we just meet and you don't have to worry about sharing your screen because I've got a setup, and it's plugged in and here's your controller. So we've got a chance to meet, and they've actually got a chance to kind of build their community ahead of time, which is fun. We've got our little secret Discord server for our game sharing and stuff like that set up. And then, picking the games, we generally have at least 1 round of the Omegathon per day of PAX. So we knew going into this, when the show was going to be a 9-day show, that, hey, we're going to have to get 9 rounds together. And we're intentional with that first day of, hey, let's get a chance to just chat and have time for the Omeganauts to hang out, just because in a normal show, you get that chance to meet someone like Neil who sticks out and you go, oh man, that's great. Where if, you're just watching and you don't have as easy a chance to feel that connection, we knew it might be harder for people in the online format. So hopefully this first hour will give people a chance to get really vested in someone and watch how they do in the Grand Prix.
And build a virtual cheering section.
Yep. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm going to balance, because there's, I have to have Discord open with the screen sharing and Zoom open so that we can do, all our faces and our voice capture for the live stream. And then the Discord channel for PAX open so that we can see people talking and try and interact with the crowd a little bit. That's, if you make it to an Omegathon round, there's never an Omegathon round where the crowd's not involved. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to figure out, how can we pull them in? And is that enough that we can, stay in part of chat and see people making comments on how people are playing and stuff like that, and get people still feeling connected to the games.
With this round, at least with PAX Online, another thing that I'm seeing here, it mentions that this Omegathon, quote, isn't just a spectator sport. Is there like a fantasy?
There is
fantasy league going on?
Yeah, so we've been working on figuring this out for a while, and we actually sort of had what we thought was the right prototype for West, and we were going to launch this in the PAX app. I don't know if I'm giving things away. They'll be mad at me if I put this out there too much. But in the PAX app, a way to choose and pick, who you think's going to win with some cool prizes. And inside the Discord now, the PAX Discord, if you go into the Omegathon channel, there are ways to choose and select who you think is going to win and interact in there. So they've built it into Discord.
So if there is that underdog, that Neil that you're rooting for, or even the crafty veteran like Rug Pisser,
yep,
who famously was in the finals, was it like 4 years in a row?
Yeah, the South runner-up is now lovingly called the South Rug Pisser, not the runner-up.
He finally got his though.
He got his. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. He did it. He won his trip to to Australia.
Yeah.
Is that? I don't know if it's been announced yet. Have they announced what the prize is for this PAX?
The prize this time around, they'll get their tickets to a PAX of their choice, but also a pretty sweet prize pack that Corsair has put together.
Awesome.
So a real chance to trick out all of their gaming PC. And last I looked, although I just saw an email come through earlier today that I haven't had a chance to look at yet, it was somewhere around $3,000 worth of stuff, and the email that came through was like, "There's more." So I gotta go through so that I can look at it and make sure that I know what's all there, and make sure we talk about it. That's one of those parts with a prize pack like that. We want to make sure during the rounds we mention it so that Corsair feels like they're getting the love, because we want stuff like this for the Omegathon.
Mm-hmm.
The final round is historically shrouded in mystery. It's not revealed until like the moment of. Usually, sometimes there's a lot of fanfare. It's a lot of fun trying to guess what the last round is going to be. The first Unplugged, I thought it was just the perfect selection of Battleship, and it was hype with. I can't remember the person Neil was up against. I know
it was Neil and Lena.
Lena, because they both, you could spell it with N-E-A-L. She, right on her first guess, hit one of Neil's ships, and it was all downhill from there. But
you go back and watch that one, right? She was just nailing everything until Neil was down to one ship, and then Neil just got on that comeback horse and almost took her out, and she just like finally pulled it out at the last minute. But that was Neil's MO. I'm gonna lose this game until the last minute, and then I'm gonna crush everybody.
It's like the Rocky Balboa strategy.
That's right. Just hit me in the corner more. Okay, it's my turn.
Rope-a-dope. Now, obviously, we can't discuss the final round for PAX Online. However, I did want to talk, because the final round is so hype, and like they've done GoldenEye, and wasn't one year a giant claw machine?
Yeah, we were able to feature the claw machine twice because we got it given back to us. So we said, let's do it again. It was really fun the first time.
Might as well. Air hockey happened one year. I want to hit your favorite, just your favorite final round, whether not necessarily in terms of hypeness or like your favorite game. Like, was there a favorite final round that you've done with the Omegathon?
I think my favorite final round probably has been, I'm looking at my list right now, I think Cowbots and Aliens. It was in 2016. It was the PAX Oz final round. And it was our first VR final round, which was fun in and of itself. But in the game, you are either a Cowbot or an alien. You're in a saloon. The game's a really fun VR Western shooter game where you can pick tables up and hide behind them and throw chairs and all that business. But just the pictures that came out of that final round of the two final Omeganauts, like, clearly taking their Vive controllers and pointing them as guns, but also looking completely separate, different directions on the stage because, they're in a VR world. It just, to me, was really fun, and we were nervous about how well is the VR going to hold up on the stage with all the lights and things like that. But it came off really well, and felt vindicated when I picked it. It was just like, yeah, that was everything that I hoped for.
It seems to have continued working too, at least with the VR, because I believe, was it Beat Saber last year that was one of the finals?
We haven't done Beat Saber as a final. We've done that inside the round. We did Audica at West. Which is like Beat Saber, but you're shooting the notes instead of slicing.
Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
And we did Brass Tactics in 18. That was the one Rug Pisser won, which was a, kind of miniatures war game, kind of a, Warcraft 3-ish, but in VR.
Right.
So we've done that. I'd be remiss not to say Spy Party. That was a really fun final round. That was 2013 at PAX West, and it was fun because we got to, be a little silly and like have enforcers on stage for the reveal in like tuxedo shirts, a t-shirt with a tuxedo, kind of, oh, we're here in our fancy party, walking around. Okay, we clear out. And Ben, one of my Omega Techs, Lieutenant Hummus, lost that final round in a panic shot. And when you go back and watch, if you've never played Spy Party, one person is a sniper on a building, and the other person is a spy inside a fancy dinner party trying to complete objectives. And if they can complete the objectives, they win the game. And if the spy shoots them, the spy wins the game. And if the spy shoots the wrong person, or if the sniper shoots the wrong person, the spy wins the game. And so you're as the spy trying to act like AI, but also trying to complete your missions. And in the final round, it was a 1-1, and this came down to it. Ben, as the sniper, just sat trying to watch, and his opponent just never activated the character and just let the character be AI. And the clock was ticking down, and in a panic mode, Ben took that final shot of like, oh my God, time's going to run. Maybe that's the one. Shoot. Wow. And had he not pulled the trigger, he would have won.
Wow.
So it was a pretty ballsy move to not take over, because you just would have lost.
Right.
No objectives completed, but Spy Party was fun for that finish too. So
that sounds. I'm gonna have to go find that one on YouTube, because that's one of the few ones that I haven't seen, at least in recent years.
It's real good.
There is at least, it looks like, one round of the Omegathon every day, starting technically, at least the day this is uploaded, technically today, Saturday the 12th, running to Sunday, which is the final round. Looks like they're all around the same time. Looks like they're all at night.
They are 5:30 Pacific, so 8:30 Eastern, and about 10:30 a.m. Australia.
Perfect.
That was our timing. Was, hey, we want to be able to get some Australian Omeganauts as well, since this is kind of West and Oz put together. So we wanted to make sure it was at a playable time for them, and not too late on the East Coast, not too early in Australia. So 5:30 made a nice landing time until the final round, which is 6:30. Pushed back just a bit, and wrapping up the show.
It's so fun. I highly recommend checking it out, especially with so many different rounds now this year. There's a ton of opportunity to check it out, and the final round is always bonkers. With the first round being QWOP, which is I'm already out. I quit. I give up. I'm out. The chats ahead of time on how angry they are at QWOP is going to make, it's going to be great. I just let them know, they asked in our test, how PG does this need to be? And I said, it doesn't, it's fine. The Omegathon is never promised to be perfectly clean on language. And they have all said, oh my God, I'm going to just be so mad, because they're going to end up playing everything for about 7 minutes a game. And if you can just imagine playing QWOP for 7 minutes in a row, they'll be real infuriating. Is there a game that you're especially excited for this year?
I think Jones on Fire. It was in an indie showcase game at PAX, and it's just a really fun little running game where you're a fireman saving cats, trying to outrun the fire, and I think that one's really cool. And then the other one that I think will be almost as much fun, because of how mad they'll get just to watch, is Pure Rock Crawling, which is just as it is. You're in your 4x4 crawling along, trying to pass through all these gates and not hit cones. And the game is gorgeous, really, really well done. And that's the other one that they curse a lot about in our Discord on how mad they are.
I'm very excited. Alex, did you have any other Omegathon questions?
No, you got them all.
Okay, cool. I didn't want to kill it before.
No.
Cool. All right, let's the Omegathon again. Every day there's at least one event, starting with round 1 Saturday, technically today, depending on, hopefully you're listening to this the day it comes out. The 12th, that's at 8:45 Eastern. I'm used to just saying everything Eastern. But let's talk about the other thing that we had mentioned. You are the executive director of Child's Play Charity, which is also a BFD, it's a big friggin' deal. We've seen Child's Play at PAXs and even before we started going to PAX, because I've been a big fan of Penny Arcade for a long time. I've seen like their show, like the Penny Arcade TV or the series, and it would talk about the silent auction and things like that. So I would love to talk about Child's Play, which you seem to be pretty heavily involved in.
Yeah, as the director, I've got to kind of have my fingers in the pot there for Child's Play.
So what's the deal with Child's Play for people who might be unfamiliar?
I'll give you my quick elevator pitch, and then we'll pitch our panel too. Mm-hmm. So Child's Play started back in 2003. It was one of those times that video games were in the news for being murder simulators and teaching people how to be antisocial and horrible. And Mike and Jerry, Gabe and Tycho of Penny Arcade just didn't think that reflected them. And in kind of mid-November, a columnist in a local newspaper here in the Seattle area put out, just another one of those articles about how bad video games were. And they decided, as much out of spite as anything else, to put together a toy drive for Seattle Children's Hospital just to kind of show, look, gamers can do good things too. And just worked with Amazon and made a wish list for Seattle Children's. Side note, just one of the first wish lists that Amazon was using. They were very early in on the wish list piece. And about 2 weeks later, there was $250,000 worth of toys had been donated. They'd had to move out of the garage that they had started stacking them in and rent a storage unit. Took them, dropped them off to Seattle Children's, and then kind of went, well, this was going to be a stunt, but boy, the community really stepped up, and this is a thing now. And so we've grown since then. Child's Play now partners with over 180 children's hospitals worldwide and also nearly 200 domestic violence shelters across the U.S. And we get the games and technology into their hands so that they're available. And really, in the last couple of years, we have stepped into this role of being it sounds kind of cocky to say a real leader in the child life community. And child life is who we support, who Child's Play supports. It's the part that makes a children's hospital different than an adult hospital. Both have doctors, both have nurses, but at a children's hospital, Child Life is the staff that is there to help keep life normal for the kids who are there. Mm-hmm. Try to give them opportunities to play, keep them on track with school, but they're also there teaching them about what a diagnosis means, what procedures are, what they can expect during those procedures, and things like that. And so they're really key to what makes a hospital livable to a child. If you could just sort of imagine having zero control and just being poked and prodded by doctors and not having that awareness, right? You're young, you're 5, you might be 3, you might be 13. But not having that understanding of what it means and why it's all happening. Child Life is there to meet them at their age appropriate and cognitive level to explain what's a blood draw, what does it mean to get chemo, how does an MRI work, and all of those things. And so we support that Child Life department through not only getting the games and technology so that they're available, we also do things like put together a therapeutic video game guide so that they can be a lot more intentional about the games when they're giving them to kids, because some games can help reduce your pain and some games can help reduce your anxiety. And the key components in those two games are very opposite. Games that reduce pain have a lot of stimulation going on, timers and colors and music and objectives and things like that make you really get focused in on the game. And your brain can kind of forget what the pain is. And it doesn't make it go away. It's not, completely removing it, but it can help reduce your pain. And games that reduce anxiety have more open world, less timers, less objectives. You kind of just get to explore and do your thing. And they're really kind of opposite. So if they're not being real intentional, you could give a kid who's really anxious a game that could really kind of hype up that anxiety. So our therapeutic game guide is really designed to help them understand and be a lot more intentional with the games in the way that, a normal gamer understands that games can be used to affect your mood and how you're feeling. And I always like to describe child life as your third grade teacher who you knew loved kids, but if you gave her a VR kit and got her super excited about, hey, take this, you'll be able to, just with Google Earth, take your kids to the Grand Canyon and to see the Eiffel Tower and to see the Statue of Liberty. And you come back in a month, it's still going to be in the corner because they don't quite know what to do. Mm. And so to help address that, the other thing we've done is we've now been able to fund, we're at 18 to 20 positions inside the hospital that are, we call them for short, pediatric gaming and technology specialists. And these are people whose jobs are not only to come in and just play games bedside with the kids and make that connection there, but also work with the doctors and the hospital staff to figure out how can we use things like virtual reality during something like a blood draw, so that a kid is not seeing the blood draw and is distracted and doing something else. How can we use augmented reality on a burn victim so that they can see what's happening, but also when they don't want to pay attention to the wound dressings, they can go look at the robot that's popping through the wall and, throw rocks at them or shoot them with a ray gun or whatever it is. So these gaming and technology specialists is essentially a whole new career path that Child's Play is helping create inside a children's hospital.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
I didn't want to butt in if you still had more, but I mean, I'm sure we will have more. So when it comes to the points of curating, the variety of therapy games, is this like a list that Child's Play has developed themselves, or is it a list that like other teams have come up with or figured out how to help kids in a way? Like, is it information that you've borrowed, or have you come up with it yourself?
So we partner with EDAR. So EDAR is a games industry research company, and they break down games. Hope EDAR doesn't hear this because they'll be so mad at the way that I describe them. But they break down games into their components, and so companies can kind of look at games and ask, hey, what are the things that really appeal to 12-year-old girls who like fantasy, and like what are the components that make games successful? And they break games down into those kinds of components. And so we worked with EDAR and some mental health professionals at UCSD to create the components to look for inside of games. So as EDAR is breaking down all the games that they get and see, they're applying also our rubric to say, oh, this game fits really well inside the pain categories. Or this game fits really well inside sadness and can have a positive effect on sadness. So the rubric was developed with the mental health professionals, and then EDAR looks at that, and we actually get an update from them each month with new games and what's available, and then put our guide out that we share with the hospitals and anybody who wants their hands on it. You can find it at childsplaycharity.org. If you haven't already made it to our website, you can get there and see the therapeutic game guide.
This is like an incredible step to come this far from just being like, oh, well, we raised some money and gave it to a hospital. We collected some games for, that was donated and we gave it to the point of involving research and figuring out how to help people and kids aside from just, amusing them for a while. It's like, no, this will seriously help them. And even one of the videos was like, when the kids are playing certain games, like they don't need as many painkillers or narcotics because they're distracted or their attention is elsewhere. It's such a huge step to take as for a charity organization like that.
Yeah, it's been, we, for the first 13 years or so, Child's Play really was in just the role of providing the games and getting them there. And in 2015, we started doing visits to our partner hospitals. And one of the things we noticed was games and technology, things like iPads, were more prevalent inside the hospital than, back in 2003 when this started. But we still ran into the staff not really, not identifying as gamers and letting us know sometimes, hey, all of our Xboxes are broken. And really what probably happened was all the controllers, the controller from room 1 ended up in room 5 and the room 4 was in room 2. And they don't work because they're not paired and they didn't know how to pair them. Mm-hmm. And same thing with the games that they were giving. A lot of AAA title games, which are the games that kids initially want to play, are great games if what you're looking to do is reduce a pain score. A game like a Fortnite or Rocket League or things like that are games that have that engagement and distraction and can really do that reduction of pain score. But like I mentioned, those can kind of hype up anxiety. And if you're really nervous about a surgery you're going into, you don't want that kid playing a game that can get them kind of hyped up that way. And if you don't know better, you just give them a game that they want, right? Like, I want to play Madden. That's what I know. I want to take that game. Mm-hmm. But if you have the tools and that knowledge, you can go, yeah, I know you'd really like that. But hey, when we're done, let's play that game. But as we go ahead, let's just use this game. And one of the things that we have is games that are recommended. So we cover, we're system agnostic, right? Our therapeutic game guide looks at Xbox and PlayStation and Switch and PS4 VR. But it also has iOS and Android games. And those tablet games are a great way to get a kid who's not necessarily stoked about playing a game that isn't a big AAA game that they've seen a commercial for, to try out a game and understand, like, well, yeah, we're going to have you play this ahead of time right now. We're going to end up wheeling you around. So playing on the iPad is going to be a little bit better. Right. And play that game that can sort of reduce their anxiety, but also now have that connection point when you come back later and say, remember that game that we played earlier? Here's one like it on the Xbox. We should try that one out. And it's a little bit easier to make that transition from playing on a mobile platform to playing on a console, to a title that they might not know and a kid might not be super excited to play for, or play with. And the guide helps child life make intelligent choices when they're suggesting games.
Child's Play has, obviously being, the kind of the creation from Penny Arcade, has had a presence at PAX shows. More recently, they've started taking donations during Make a Strip, which used to just be, we're going to draw the strip and answer questions. But now there's like donations and it's a lot of fun. There's also donation incentives that they added into there. There's also the charity dinner that they've been doing every year, events like Desert Bus and things like that. What is, with PAX Online, what's this Child's Play going to be doing this year?
Well, so we actually have an auction this year that we're going to run during PAX, giving it a shot and seeing how it goes. We've done before at PAX Oz, an auction panel that has usually been the last day, gotten some neat things from exhibitors there. And one of the cool parts that PAX Australia has had in the past is they have like an artist alley, and down one of the main hallways, they just have artists there painting all weekend, and they donate some of their paintings to us at the end of the show, and then we get to auction those off. So we've got some art and some other kind of collectible stuff that we're doing in our silent auction. Make a Strip will be happening. So Mike and Jerry will be drawing their Penny Arcade, the Monday Penny Arcade strip, and you can watch that whole piece, and there'll be the fundraiser to get the hot dog fairy drawn on there as well. We've got some new merch in our store. We were planning on having merch at PAX West, and some of it still was able to get in. So you can always check our stuff out at the store. And then we've got a handful of, different opportunities for people to join up and do some streaming for us if they want to. Lots of people are going to be playing demos of games and things like that over the course of PAX. And so if you were playing a demo and wanted to stream that and raise some money for Child's Play, you could go to the donor drive link on our page and get that. Easiest way to check it all out, we've got a blog post at childsplaycharity.org. Click the news post. It's our first blog post that talks about what's going on. Cookie Brigade's got some stuff going on. They're doing a whole Cookie Brigade bracket. The reveal, I think the final reveal happens today for the last, today recording time, so Friday before the show, of what the last pair of cookie brackets is, where people get a chance to vote for what their favorite cookie type is. And The PAX Pokemon League's got an event going on. The virtual pub crawl's still happening. So there's if you're ever going to a PAX in person and you want to take part in a pub crawl, there's pub crawls put together that support Child's Play, and they're doing a virtual pub crawl. And then there's a bunch of panels that we're on. So we have a whole panel about, so Sunday, September 13th at 11:45 a.m. Pacific time. There's a Make a Difference playing video games in hospitals. And that's a bunch of our game techs have got together and put together a panel to talk about what it is that they do in the hospital and how they're using games and technology with the kiddos there. There's also Sunday, a little bit later Sunday, there's a Desert Bus panel that talks about how the bus runs. So if you've been a fan of Desert Bus and want to see behind the scenes, or have heard people mention Desert Bus on here now and go, what are they talking about? That'd be a good panel to get into. We have a whole panel about our therapeutic video game guide. That's the therapeutic video game guide for self-care that is with Eric, our program director, the guys from EDAR who help put our guide together, talking about how they do it and just some of the games and things like that we featured. And then we have a whole panel about Child's Play. If you haven't heard enough about us yet and you want to hear some more, Sunday the 19th at 2 p.m. Pacific, there's the Gamers Give Back panel where we just get a chance to talk about Child's Play and tell you more about us. And so there's a lot of stuff happening during PAX Online, and we'll see how it goes. It's a new frontier for everybody.
Just before the last PAX East happened, we got to talk to Adam, right? Was that Adam and Jared?
Yes.
From Game to Grow.
Yeah.
And they have mentioned how they've gotten grants from Child's Play to do all the therapy stuff that they do. And looks like Adam is in a panel on Wednesday for games of social healing.
Yeah, I think they've got a handful of panels they're actually in this year. So the Game to Grow, that would be another way to look and see. They use Game to Grow uses Dungeons and Dragons to work on therapy and some social skills and things like that with kids, and are a great group of guys and do a really cool use of games that a lot of people don't necessarily get exposed to because they don't have someone who can start up a D&D group for them, and especially not a D&D group that's focused on therapy. But they've got adventures and curricula set that focus on that. So they do really cool work. We're excited and always honored to be a little bit of what they're doing.
Do you have any, getting into the kind of I don't want to say the business, but like the getting into charity work, do you have any pointers for people who might be trying to do so themselves but aren't really sure where to start?
Have a friend who makes a charity out of spite a couple of years ago, and then and then when someone leaves, have them say, "Hey, we think you'd be good." No, my roundabout route to charity. I was a middle school teacher for 15 years before I moved over to Child's Play in 2016, and it's not it's find something that you're passionate about and that is important to you. And go from there. One of the things we always tell people who are just trying to do fundraisers for us and things like that is, don't expect a Desert Bus out of the gate. Right. It starts small. You put on an event, or you put on a stream, or you even just do a birthday fundraiser on Facebook. And the first time you do it, it's, you can set a goal. And if you don't meet your goal, don't use that as that discouragement. But that next time that you do it, people start to notice the consistency, just like if you were building up your regular Twitch stream or YouTube channel, or a podcast, right? If you're putting out the content at a regular time and people come to expect it, people become part of that community. And that's really probably the biggest advice that we give to people thinking about, kind of asking us about how to do stuff for Child's Play and asking, kind of, hey, how do I start a thing, is understand that slow growth is not a bad thing. Don't look at us. Don't look at a Desert Bus. Don't look at a Red Cross and say, that's it. That's what I'm doing. Because it's going to be that slow build as you figure out what you're doing and you build the supporters and you build that audience that is there to empower you.
Even with Child's Play, it's gone from storing toys in a storage facility to on the website here, over $44 million raised. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
we
go ahead.
Haven't done an update here for this year, but yeah, we're in that 44 million plus,
which is unbelievable. I mean, I can't, congratulate you enough on the work that's been done with you and your team. It's amazing to see, at the end, or right before, is it before the Omegathon starts or afterwards? Because I believe they read off like how much money they've made at that PAX.
Yeah,
whether it's through Cookie Brigade and
after the final round, we try and come back and give a total with the show and kind of give people a chance to hear, just in a weekend alone, here's the impact that you've had.
It's super rad. Is there anything? I know it's kind of we're living in weird times with pandemics and all that. So obviously things like the silent auction, may have been put on hold this year. Is there any events coming up for Child's Play in the future?
Well, aside from PAX Online, Desert Bus is getting geared up to happen in November. So definitely keep an eye out for Desert Bus. And then we've had to cancel our auction as an in-person auction, but we are putting together a whole plan to try out a virtual auction and see how it goes. Part of this PAX auction is our first little dry run of the auction back end that we're going to use for the dinner auction. And we're really excited because this one gives the opportunity for everyone, worldwide to participate in this dinner auction, where normally you got to be able to get to Seattle in early December if you're going to make it to the dinner auction. So this is one that, because it's virtual, hopefully we'll get some more people who've been wanting to come and participate. We're trying real hard to build it out so it has a similar feel to the evening. We'll have some silent auctions. We'll have some live auctions, and trying to figure out how to create, kind of Zoom community spots where people can get in and hang out and talk if they want to do that. So, definitely keep your eye on our website or our social media. So Twitter or Instagram and figure out, as we get those announced. Generally, we usually start putting tickets on sale before or when PAX launches, and we're sliding that back a little bit because we're really focused on PAX Online and figuring out how to work this new show. But coming up here, end of September timeframe, we'll start having announcements about what our dinner auction is this year.
That is childsplaycharity.org. In case you missed it earlier, you can go check out that website. It has the whole schedule coming up for next week's festivities at PAX Online. And also, places to donate, an FAQ if you want to learn more about it that you haven't already learned, listening to this. So you can go check it out. And then hopefully in the future, when we're at live shows again, you can see it in person. Hopefully, fingers crossed, if we're ever able to.
That's right.
Get healthy.
Come find us at our booth and learn more about us. Come find me at the Omegathon round and catch me afterwards if you have Child's Play questions or Omegathon questions. They're both things that I could talk about for a long time. So,
well, we won't take up much more of your time here. I know you're literally prepping for a show pretty much as we speak. So really, I just want to say congratulations. Best of luck with the Omegathon this coming week. I hope everything goes smoothly. I hope everyone gets very frustrated at QWOP for everyone else's amusement.
It will definitely happen.
But best of luck. Congratulations. Thank you again so much for coming on, Travis. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So again, thank you so much to both Chris and Travis for joining us this week. Again, PAX is running all week. Saturday the 12th today up until Sunday the 20th. Whole bunch of stuff online. Go to PAX site or online.paxsite.com. You can go and check it out. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Just go look and then go and support. Go and support indie games. Go and support Parkasaurus. Go check out Child's Play. It's really neat stuff. A lot of fun. Again, huge thank you to Chris and Travis. That was a lot of fun.
We always want to stress supporting live events, but since we can't do that right now, it's important to stress to support the people who would be having shows right now. So if you think you find someone who you would go see live or you would go experience, do what you can to support them virtually through online means. And this is one of the ways to do that.
Exactly. You can support live events by supporting an online event, and check out some cool games, check out some charity events, check out some competition, watch people get really frustrated with difficult games. It's a lot of fun. And hopefully eventually we'll be able to do it in person again. But until then, find a way to support. And yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Yeah. So again, this was great. Alex, thanks to Alex. Alex is the mastermind putting all this together. Beautiful. And yeah, that's it. So for Chris and Travis, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And this has been episode 411 of Opinions May Vary. Hey everyone, if you liked that episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Opinions May Vary, and on Twitter and YouTube at OMV Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify or on our very own website at omvpodcast.com. And if you're looking for merch, we have stickers and pins available over at omvpodcast.bigcartel.com while supplies last. As always, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see you next time.